Welcome to the A.L.L podcast.
We're the Academy of Logic and Light. I'm Meagan.
I'm Kat.
I'm Julie. We are an ethical community education platform that provides a safe space for people to practice their spirituality without indoctrination.
Thanks for coming back for the A.L.L podcast. We're so excited to have another guest here with us today. And we've got Lindy with us. So Lindy, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your background and who you are.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I guess kind of the best way to explain me is it feels kind of enemies to lovers story, but I was the enemy to lover. So definitely grew up in Utah with religious trauma, family trauma, all that, spicy stuff, and was able to just like slowly navigate my way back to myself and tap back into my own authenticity. So
I love that. One of my favorite things is like finding our own paths, and they're all so unique, but I'm so glad that yours led you here and we get to have you on.
And loving the Snorlax, by the way.
Thank you. I'm a Taurus. I have to have little comfy things everywhere. Love my little treasures.
I love that. How did you get into human design?
Yeah, human design was actually something kind of later in my spiritual journey, but it's I guess, should I just kind of go into my little spiritual journey and how I got there?
Yeah, tell us everything.
Yeah, okay, awesome. So like I said, grew up religious. We weren't super strict. I was in a pretty lax family to the point that actually when I went on a mission, all my friends were like, wait, you're Mormon? I was not a good Mormon. And anyways, when I came back from a mission, it felt like the rug had just been pulled out from under me. It felt like I went from this spiritual high to just total confusion, and it felt like God had abandoned me. I just didn't know what to do. I've always struggled with I have major ADHD, used to have major depression, anxiety, all that, and struggled with suicidal ideation, self-harm, all that heavy stuff. And so coming back from a mission and just feeling the lights were completely shut off, I felt like I hit rock bottom. And it just finally got me to the point where I had to take a step back. I remember having a prayer with God specifically and saying, hey, look, bud, I'm at the end of my rope. So I think I need to take a step back. Otherwise, I'm going to be seeing you sooner than we anticipated. And I was like, I don't know what this is going to look like, but it was like a breakup with God kind of prayer. It was interesting. And I just gave myself space to not have to decide or figure it out, but just let myself be. And in that being, it allowed I think all of these concerns I had, all these doubts I had, all these things that had always been felt like conflictions within my soul, finally raise up, and I could actually confront it and deal with it. And I realized man, the church is not for me. No shame to those who want to be a part of it, but it was not for me, fam. And just that time to allow myself to let go was really beautiful, but then it left kind of this void. If you're used to some kind of spirituality or comfort, and then now suddenly you're just living in a world where you're just on this floating rock in space, it's kind of jarring, to say the least, a little off-putting. And but I was so scared to rediscover spirituality because of the past traumas and stuff, and I was so scared of locking myself back up into a box. And yeah, I think just slowly with time, I ended up getting married, and wish him the best, but that also wasn't it. And I finally kind of reached this head where I'm hey, I feel like I need to love myself. And in order to do that, A, I need to get a divorce, B, I need to quit my job, and C, I need to just dive back into the spirituality of me, whatever that is. I need to let go of all these rules, all these conditions, and just give myself a chance to just explore whatever that needs to be. And so I did. I got a divorce. I quit my high-paying job to work at a freaking game shop, which I still work there and love. And yeah, it was the happiest I've ever been in my life, because I just finally chose me, even though I didn't know what I was doing, other than just following this gut feeling, that kind of tug,
Yeah.
And then after the divorce, we sold our house, and so I had some extra funds, and one of my best friends reached out to me, and she's like, hey, My mentor, I don't know if you guys have heard of Liz Hayes. She's like inner child guru, the sync up method. Super awesome. Highly recommend. But she was doing this like retreat in Greece. So my friend's like, we gotta go. And I was like, I actually have the money. Yeah, like, let's do it. And we went there, and like, that was my first, I like to call them shifts, when like you just feel you're like, you just align. It's like you shift into a newer reality of yourself. You just shift into like this newer understanding. And on that retreat, I had my, whatever that should, live, eat, pray, love. I haven't seen it, but it was one of those moments. And like, she did an inner child session with me. And for the first time in my life, I had someone actually like thank my inner child and thank this past me who had picked up all these conditions and all these trigger responses and trauma responses as a way to stay safe. And instead of like shaming it or judging it, she just thanked it and said, you know, you did the best with what you knew at the time you could to stay safe and to feel loved and feel okay. And it was like the most beautiful like experience of like, wow, I can move past this now because I actually was able to see and embrace this part of me. Anyways, and so, you know, obviously, thank you, but this is no longer working. So now we got to try something else kind of movement. And then that, yeah, I think that just really was the beginning of me diving deep into like spirituality and just, you know, saying, am I okay to swear?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I cuss a lot. So but yeah, just kind of like, it allowed me to be like, hey, fuck the rules. We're going to play and just like treat it like we're a little scientist experimenting with stuff. And like, and so then I just like couldn't get my hands on enough things. Like I was just devouring anything I could on spirituality. Got into like Wicca for a little bit, got into witchcraft for a little bit, got into like meditation, all like everything. And then that's how I ended up discovering human design, which absolutely mind blowing. I don't know if do you guys know much about human design or?
Yeah, I know a little bit.
Yeah.
Tell us everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're
This is the best part,
ready.
yeah. Now that we got the lore out of the way. So human design it's this beautiful modality. I believe that was created in, I want to say, I just looked this up and I already forgot, sometime between the 70s or the 90s. But it's essentially this guy, like, he was just going on a walk with his dog and like came into his house, and all of a sudden he just started like sweating profusely, like was kind of having visions or whatever, and like just had to like run into his office and just start writing everything down, like full on download of information. And it's this like modality that includes like astrology, it includes the yin yang theory, it includes like the chakra system. It just takes all these beautiful different systems and like creates your human design, right? And like, regardless of, I always like to tell people, because I always like to be a little healthy bit skeptical, like for people who are concerned, like, how do you know that's real or whatever? It doesn't matter. If it helps you live your life better and helps you like fall more in love with yourself and like chase your dreams, like why does it matter? And so I definitely like put it to the test, and it's just been incredible. I've never had something. Astrology got really close to that, and I'm still a huge fan of astrology, but human design took it that step deeper of so authentically showing you to you in such a fun, celebratory way, in a way that says, look, I know the world has told you have to live this, 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 and this way. You're going to push all that aside and tap back into that feeling you've always known of who you are, and you're going to celebrate it, and you're going to accept it, and you're going to lean into it, and you're going to watch as magic just unfolds around you because of it. And like, everyone, like, that happened for me, and everyone I've done readings for, it's just so fun to watch them go from struggling to thriving, to go from like self-hatred to absolute like self-love and acceptance and celebration.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. I love that philosophy that you said of like, if it helps you fall more in love with yourself, like that's what we're here for. I was just going to ask, like, how long have you been studying it or like playing around with it?
Yeah. So I did this really cool course for a year that like taught us a ton of different healing modalities. And each month was like a different one. And so we had a month for like human design. And as soon as we took that, I just like extra dove deep into it, because I'm like, oh, this is good stuff. So like, yeah, probably for a couple years now. So I'm still fairly new to it, but I'm obsessed with doing readings for people because like I said, it's so fun to watch. It's just fun to celebrate each other. And like, it's really fun when you're like telling someone, you know, certain stuff about them in their chart and they're like, I've always felt that way. Or like, you know, I've always wanted to do that, but I just felt like the world told me I wasn't supposed to. And like, one of the things in your human design is your life theme, which is kind of like your purpose for why you're here. And mine is to put people above rules and laws, which like makes so much sense to me because like it literally like is very much when you do your human design reading, it's this very inspiring, like fuck the rules, you make the rules. This is your life, this is your experience, and like you get to enjoy it, you get to have fun. And so yeah.
Yeah. Sounds so cool.
I love that you started with inner child. Like what a great like bursting off point.
Yeah. I think someone once explained to me kind of, you can almost view the inner child as like the ego, and then like your inner being is like your higher consciousness. And so they're both this like beautiful part, right? Your inner child's this physical realm of you here. And so it's still like, yeah, I also love inner child work. It's another thing I do that I'm very passionate about. It's just embracing this like physical you now, not just like past traumas you or just past little you, but like the you now that still likes to have fun and do things and enjoy this world around us. So
yeah, that's beautiful. And like nurturing it too in like a way, right? Like in ways like, at least that was part of my journey, like nurturing myself in ways that I felt like I probably needed as a child, but I can do now, like little things.
yeah, and it like makes a huge difference. Like you don't even realize until like, I mean, there's definitely a lot of grief with it. I feel like when you realize like, man, this would have been great if I had this as a child, but like, it's still so beautiful to start giving that to yourself now. And then especially once you start creating like a community and you can start like soothing each other's inner children and just soothing each other and like almost reparenting.
I love that.
Yeah. So I don't know very much at all about human design aside from like the basics. Can you talk a little bit about like the different archetypes? Is that what they're called?
Yeah, so there's it goes into a lot of totally different depths. The one you're probably thinking of is like the different energy types. There's 5 main types.
Okay, yeah.
And then even within then, you have like different personality types, or like I said, like your life theme. So it's a really fun breakdown. But the biggest one is energy types. The 5 of them are, you've got your generators. Your generators are like, they listen to their sacral. They're just lit up by life. That gives them like never-ending energy. They're go, go, go. Then you've got your manifestors, and your manifestors are they just do what they want. They just go and they do it. And then you've got your projectors, and your projectors are here to kind of help lead, and they're like usually our leaders and our examples. Fun thing about projectors is they need a ton of rest. And so that's really fun when you do a projectors reading and you're like, hey, you're okay to work from bed. Like, you're okay that you're efficient and you need 3 days off. Like, that's fine. And then there's the manifesting generator, which is what I am, which is a fun mixture of the manifestor and the generator. And then finally there's the reflector, and the reflector only makes up like, I want to say like 3% of the population, if that. And the reflectors are really cool because they're here to obviously reflect back to us ourselves. So
Interesting. And that goes off of your birthday? Is that right?
yeah, so the birthday and the time you're born, it's still very similar. Are you guys familiar with like neutrinos and oh, fun. I'm a science nerd, so I love learning about the why. So apparently, like with astrology, the whole kind of science behind astrology, and it goes hand in hand with human design, it's the time you were born, the place you were born, and the date you were born. So apparently planets and like stars project these like atoms, that might be the wrong term, called neutrinos. And they're like, we're getting bombarded with like trillions of them every day. And so it makes, and like, I think it was in the 90s, they were able to determine that the neutrinos actually do carry information. And so like, it kind of makes sense that like, dependent on when you're born, and all of a sudden like you come out and you're blasted with all these neutrinos depending on where the planets are lined up. Like that's why we see such eerie like coincidences with like astrology or signs and stuff like that. And then same with like as we continue to go into like, you know, a Mercury in retrograde or whatever, like different stuff moving forward, we're still getting bombarded with those neutrinos. So obviously it's going to affect like our frequency, our lives. Like, I don't, anyway, sorry. But just cool, fun stuff.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I've never heard that before somehow.
Yeah, I highly recommend
crazy.
looking into it. It's so fun. So yeah, that human design is very, I'd say most like astrology more than anything else. And then it's just combining all these other really cool healing modalities into it to get this like beautiful reading.
I love that. For me, with astrology, it's kind of like a atlas of like, okay, here's where my tendencies probably lie. I'm a Cancer sun, so I can be super homebody nurturing. I can be pretty manipulative when I want to be. So like for me, it's just kind of like, here's a broad stroke of like traits that you are most likely to have. So be mindful of that. Is that similar with human design? I mean, I'm from what you've said, like it's a lot more detailed than that, but do you find it like super beneficial to use to like make decisions in your life, or is it more just like, okay, yeah, this is a common thing that I'm likely to have happen or something like that?
Yeah, great question. Absolutely. It like has completely changed the way I live my life. So one really interesting thing, I got diagnosed with ADHD at a very young age. And like for anyone who's neurodivergent and aware of what it's like growing up with that, you get a lot of pressure of like, you have to mask a certain way, you have to act a certain way, you get told the way you function is just wrong. And so I'd always kind of grown up with this idea of like my quirks of my ADHD being like these negative things. And upon doing my human design reading, a manifesting generator, almost like word for word, is someone with ADHD. It feels like I was like, yeah. Oh my gosh. And it completely reframed the way I viewed how I functioned to this like negative to like, no, this is how I was designed to function. This is how I was meant to function. And it completely changed the way I treat myself. It completely changed the way I set boundaries and like moved forward in the world, because I'm like, no, this is no longer wrong. I am intentional and this is how I was meant to function. And then with your designs, it does give you like, so for example, I'm a manifesting generator where my response system is through my sacral. And so that means I'm supposed to trust a gut feeling. I'm supposed to trust a yes or no, like before my head. But then on the other hand, they're supposed to listen to their head. Or I have another friend who they're supposed to listen to their ego, which is a really fun one because that one's just, you do what you want, essentially, which is, I'm sure, nice. But yeah, and so like you're able to find, they give you like literally what's called your strategy of how you should like respond to things, which is really cool. And so like for me, again, it's that simple yes or no gut feeling. And so there's even different ways, like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with muscle testing, but where you could like, I love doing it. I just do the body lean where it's like lean forward for yes, lean back for no if I'm too stuck in my head about something. It really brings in, you'll notice a lot of similarities with your astrology readings into it, but I feel like it makes it more applicable to actually you living your life, if that makes sense, in ways that you can respond and go after things. It even goes into like your manifestation style. It goes into like your digestion, both how you process information and actual physical food. And so just really has this beautiful depth of like how you can start applying it. And like, it just feels, it's so fun. Like the more you keep playing with it and the more you keep following what your chart says, like it just feels more and more aligned. It's a really cool experience.
Cool. That's so interesting.
Yeah, I just looked. I'm a generator, and which is funny because that's the only thing I know about human design was that I make all my decisions through my gut.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
But I thought that's like what everybody did.
Depending on how you're wired. Yep.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
I'm really curious about the ego one.
I know, right? Yeah. The ego one, I think could be fun, but I could also see where it could be kind of pokey to some people.
Because I'm a projector, but I know that like the way I make decisions is through like talking with people, the sounding board. And so it's just like, it's so different than that like gut feeling. It's like, no, I have to say this out loud before I can make the decision.
So a really fun thing about projectors, and I'm curious if you feel this way. So projectors' strategy is to be invited. Like, you're not meant to initiate, you're meant to have someone invite you to do something. And so your strategy is just to respond to those invites instead of like initiating it, if that makes
That's
sense.
so funny. The first, like when Megan and I first started working together, she put me in the kitchen. She was like, all I need for you to tell me is that, yes, I need to get started on these projects. Give me permission and I will go.
She's like, invite me to do this. I want to do it. That's like typical projector. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love projectors.
And she went.
Yeah. And then as soon as you invite them, they're good. They're efficient. Projectors are super efficient. But you need a lot of rest, so be nice to yourself and give yourself so much rest.
Yeah. I try. It's, the struggle every day.
Kat, do you know what you are?
I think I'm a generator.
Oh, fun. And Julie, did you say
but I think there's some
too, or generator?
I'm a generator, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I think I had somebody a while ago. It was like at one of those like psychic medium fair or whatever, where they have like a bunch of different vendors come. So it was like a really quick, like 10-minute chat that I had with the person that was doing human design. And I didn't have like a notebook to write anything down. So I was just trying to like remember everything.
Yeah.
I think that there was something in there. Like, did you say that generators like lean into their sacral?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
yeah. Because I remember a big conversation about like you need to make sure that your gut health is like up, because you need to like be able to really trust your gut instincts and that sacral energy.
Well, and the cool thing about generators and manifesting generators is that so essentially the sacral is like our life force, right? In chakra system, right? That's where like the sacral, the womb, life is created. Like, it's this really sacred place. And so we kind of have this really cool ability where we have like unlimited energy essentially. But the problem is especially for generators, you guys can end up accidentally overfilling your plate and making too many commitments instead of listening to your gut and setting clear boundaries of no, I'm going to save my energy for only the things that light me up, for only the things that excite me. And that actually, they're finding a lot of like, I'm super into like metaphysical health with physical health. And it's interesting when you look into that, like a lot of times, like anytime I start getting gut problems is when I'm overextending myself. I'm not actually listening to my sacral, and I'm doing things even if I don't want to do them. But the sacral is a really fun one because it really comes down to like, do what lights you up, what excites you, what sounds fun to you. And like, who doesn't want to live that way? Like,
That's so funny. I was like, I feel attacked.
yeah,
I know. I was literally like, God damn it.
I know. It's like, on paper, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. I'll just say no to the things I don't want to do. And then you're actually presented with the opportunity to say no. And you're like, oh, this is so scary. I don't want to. I'll just do it. Like,
That's funny. Where is the energy center for the projector?
So projector, I'd have to look into it. So it's really cool. I'd be happy to do your guys' readings sometime too. Like, feel free to reach out.
Hell yeah.
I love that because I love it. But yeah, so essentially how the human design works, I should have like had a little picture to show, but it's like, you see this like little body graph, and it has centers similar again to looking like the chakras. And you can have those centers either defined or undefined. And so depending what centers you have defined or undefined determine what energy type you are. I believe projectors don't have their sacrals defined. And I think that's why when you have an undefined sacral, that's why you need a lot of rest, which there's nothing wrong with that. Rest is awesome. But like, you don't have that life source you can just keep automatically tapping into. And so I can't remember. I think, no, I'd be talking out of my ass if I said that. I don't remember exactly which ones were defined for a projector, unfortunately, but I can look it up.
And then manifestor, do you know off the top of your head? Not to like test you, I'm just so curious.
So manifestor also doesn't have, so the only ones with their defined sacrals are the manifesting generators and the generators. A manifestor also doesn't have, or maybe they might actually have the defined sacral, it's just not connected to their throat. So as a manifesting generator and as a generator, it's connected to our throat, which is very like, I don't know, just feels very like we're going, we're doing, you know what I mean? Whereas I think for manifestors, there's like a disconnect somewhere there. But manifestors are really, their strategy is to inform, because they're not meant to ask for permission. They're meant to just go. Like, they're doers. They don't want to ask. They don't want to wait around. They're already gone. Like, they just want to go. But their strategy is to inform, is because then they're going to benefit more when they can keep their people in the loop. Like, it's not that they're asking for permission. It's not saying that they can stop them, but they're just letting them know, like, hey, this is what I want to do and this is what I'm doing. And it's, yeah, manifestors are fun. They can, manifestors and projectors have, I like to call pokey auras. Not that it's negative at all, but they kind of protrude, they get in there. Like they immediately, like they're in there, because you're poking for that invite, right? You're poking for that, if you're a projector, and then if you're a manifestor, you're just out there, you're pushing out, you're doing whatever. And then for generators and manifesting generators, we have an enveloping aura. So we like bring people into us, like they want to come to us. And then reflectors, being the most unique ones, they don't have any defined centers. So it's all open. I've met a couple of reflectors and they're incredible people. But like it's probably the most life-changing for reflectors to find out they're a reflector, because it completely shifts everything on how they're supposed to be living. Ramble. Sorry.
I love it.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
This is your platform.
So I love the way that you have been presenting this, because I agree. Like when I found out the projectors, because I've kind of known my astrology for a while and I've always studied that, and it's taught me a lot about myself, but I feel like a lot of that is more so like internal processes that are happening,
Yeah.
you know, and like things that are out of my control. Where when I started kind of looking at the human design, to me, it felt like it was giving me advice of like how to make all of those different energies that add to like who I am, but how to make them kind of fit and work for me best in our current like civilization, you know?
Yeah. It feels more modern for sure.
Yeah. And so like when I learned out that I had to like wait for an invitation, then instead of getting like upset that nobody's inviting me places, I found myself more so putting myself in scenarios that are like, you know, someone's like, hey, I have this sign up sheet. And I'm like, well, I'm going to sign up on the sheet. Like that's an invitation, or at least like it gets me one step closer to the invitation. And so I started putting myself in scenarios where people would be like, oh, would you like to come and participate in this? Which is exactly what Julie did. And she's like, hey, we're having a potluck. You should come. And I was like, okay, like how many people? And she was like 6. And I was like, oh, I was expecting more people. Like I thought this was a bigger party, but I'm happy to be one of the 6. Things like that, I learned how to kind of put myself out there in a way that I was getting the opportunities that I was looking for. Yeah. And so I love that you've been bringing that up, because I've definitely noticed it in my life that it was like, oh, I can create them for myself, even though I'm waiting for someone else to invite me. Like I'll put myself in the scenario.
I can like create an invitation for them to invite me. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, well, I have no plans that day.
Yeah.
Nudge, nudge.
Awesome. I love that. It's just so fun. I love people. I'm obsessed with people. I'm obsessed with what makes us so unique, and what, you know, we're so individualistic and yet we're also one, and I think human design just does such a good job at, it's all just a complete celebration and acceptance of like, this is how you're meant to function without any, like, obviously we're not perfect, but like, we're not meant to be. We're meant to be these beautiful, like messy, complicated, fun, crazy beings. And so it does it in a way that's just so deconditioning of this society we've grown up, of this patriarchy we've grown in, of late stage capitalism, of all of it, right? Christian nationalism, you name it. And it just like peels it back for a second, and you get to just like breathe and be like, this is me, and this is okay. And like, more than okay, this is badass, and this is really fun. It's like, it very like, I'm glad we talked about inner child work a little bit, because it very like, your inner child is there when you do it, because your inner child's sitting there like, yeah, this is how we felt this whole time, and you just forgot, and that's okay, because I'm back. And like, it's just so exciting and fun. And like, I've had probably one of the most touching moments I've had. I won't out who they are, but I have someone in my life who, close to being a textbook narcissist, we'll say, and just really hard to work with. And I've never received any kind of like acknowledgement or apologies from them, obviously, because anyone who's familiar with narcissism, that's like never going to happen. And for some reason, I just felt very called to do their human design reading. And it was really hard because, again, it's such a beautiful celebratory thing. And so to read to this person who's like hurt me so much and tell them like, hey, you're so deserving of love and you're fantastic and here are your cool traits and like da da da. On the inside, I'm still like, but you hurt me so bad. But it was really cool because after we got through it, we were able to have this beautiful moment where for the first time in their life, they were able to acknowledge like, hey, I'm really sorry for how I've acted. I know I wasn't perfect. I now know I was trying my best, but I recognize my best still wasn't enough. And I'm sorry that hurt you. And like, just insane, right? Like, and it makes sense that of course for them to be able to get to that place, they needed to love themselves first. Like everything always comes back to that self-love and self-acceptance. Like everything. I can't think of a single thing that doesn't stem from this true, total, like rebellious act of self-love and devotion. And it just ripples out into every corner of your life. And it was so cool to see firsthand them be able to, for the first time, what felt like probably ever for them, to finally be like, hey, maybe I am okay. And as soon as they were able to access that, they were able to go, and I'm so sorry I hurt you, which is like, incredible. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
I love that. Yeah.
And how rare.
I know. Yeah. They still test my patience, but they're trying. It's been really cool to see the growth.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
How do you ever do anything about like using human design to see how like two people would relate to each other? Not so much like compatibility, but just like how they work together, you know?
Yes. So it's something I'm still new at, but I've been loving playing with. So essentially you have all your centers, right? Like you have your head center, throat center, sacral center, right? Defined, undefined. And then from them, you have these channels connecting each other, right? So you have one going from your throat to your sacral, one going from your head to your throat, right? And if you only have like, let's say you had the head undefined, but the throat is defined, you'd have what's called a hanging gate, where it's like half defined, that channel, right, is only halfway colored because this one's undefined, so it's not a complete channel. And when you meet with someone, since everything's all energetics, right, everything's all frequencies, they feel that if they had a defined head, suddenly when you're with that person, you guys have that channel together. And the channels, of course, represent their own deep stuff, right? Like there's a channel of initiation, the channel of abundance, the channel of like, there's so many fun things. And so like, it's really fun to do reading, whether it's with your partner, whether it's with a friend, whether it's with, I think it's really cool. We're starting to see a lot more companies to start doing it with like their coworkers and stuff. And you can start seeing how like you can complete certain people's channels, and like a channel you usually don't have access to on your own. When you're with the right person, you now have the energy for it, which is so cool and so fun. So I hope that answered your question, but yeah, it's really cool to see how much like that energy, or even just that whole center itself, if you don't have a defined head and you're with someone who does have a defined head, that's going to create a totally different energetic situation for you. A great example of that, do any of you guys know if you have a defined throat center?
I do.
If you remember, you do? Okay. Have you noticed that like some people can just gab and gab and gab at you? Like almost like word vomit at you?
Yeah.
So a lot of times someone with an undefined throat center, when they're in your presence, they're like, oh my God, I can talk. Like, I'm okay to speak my truth. Like, I'm safe to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's really fun to kind of see, like, you can provide that for other people who maybe don't feel as comfortable. You know what I mean? It's just, you start picking up on these little things, and it's kind of like with astrology.
Cool to do
like,
the whole boards. It would be cool to do the whole boards, human design, to see where we pick up where the others leave off.
Yeah, we could, absolutely.
So
I'm serious. Let's find a time. I'd love to do your guys' readings. So
yeah.
That would be amazing.
Fun. Yeah.
Cool.
So if it's defined, it would be in color, right?
Yes, it'd be colored in, correct. And the
Nice.
cool thing is, even if it's undefined, it still has meaning to that too. So both the defined and undefined still has meaning. So an undefined heart would mean XYZ, while a defined heart would mean whatever. So just because it's undefined doesn't mean it doesn't have meaning. It just means it's just another level for you to learn about yourself.
And that makes sense. So my throat chakra has always like been a thing for me, finding my voice throughout my life. So.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does all the numbers mean?
So the numbers, those are what's representing the gates. And then once those two get like, so if a number is colored in, that means you have that gate. And you'll notice that it kind of colors in like half. I wish I had, for the listeners, a picture, but feel free to Google it. You'll see. Oh, perfect. Yes. Okay. Awesome. So when she was saying numbers, when you do a full reading, like for example, let's go back to the throat center. There'll be numbers written all around the edges of the throat center.
Okay. So like each of these lines, right?
Yes, so those lines are channel, and then on a reading, you'll see numbers inside the throat center to represent the gates, and if they're colored, that means you have that gate, and if they're not colored, you don't.
Okay.
And then if you have one colored, and then it's not the opposite gate that it's supposed to be connected to isn't, that's where you get that hanging gate we were just talking about. And if the opposite gate in the, I think that's the, I can't read.
So like split.
Yeah, but if they're both connected, then that's when you get that channel.
Okay.
And obviously each channel has its own meaning, and it just goes deeper and deeper. There's still so much I'm learning.
Yeah.
So amazing.
Yeah. So circling back to your question of like compatibility and stuff too, one of the things your human design reading does for you is everyone has two numbers that you get assigned. So I'm a 3-5, for example. It's like kind of your personality. I view it kind of similar to like your sun and moon. So like my 3 is what everyone else sees in me, and then my 5 is how I see myself, kind of thing. And so they like have different, like a whole list of like, hey, it's usually that these, personality traits are really good with these type of people, especially for romance. They'll be like, hey, you'll find that you really vibe with these people. Like, obviously, again, I hate rules, so like, fuck them. But if that, it feels right and is like a fun little guidance, great. But if not, screw the rules and make a mess and have fun. But
I like that philosophy.
Yeah. I know that I really liked human design, and you mentioned the 2 numbers you're assigned. What are those called again?
It's like your personality, I think is
okay.
Sometimes human design will kind of, depending on what system you're using, will have different wording for it, but it's all the same general idea.
Okay.
I like to call it your personality. So again, the first number is going to be how others see you, and then the second number is going to be how you see yourself, and then those 2 numbers coming together. So your first number is always, I believe, going to be like 1 through 6, and then same with your second numbers, and that's going to have different meanings.
Okay.
Those reading, your energy type, right, is probably your biggest thing. And then I love the personality, the numbers ones. And then I love a life theme because that's just fun. Makes everyone feel like yes. So.
I'm so excited because we have you set up to help us with our circle in June, right?
Yes, yep. And it's going to be on human design. Yay! And it would be cool if we could do your readings before then, because then we could use you guys as an example during it if that timing works out. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. I love
that would be so fun. Do you have anything kind of specific in mind for that class, or like, is it just going to be like an educational class, or are people going to be able to kind of like bring their charts and then discussion will kind of be around what everybody in the class has? Have you already thought anything out, or?
It definitely was, no, that's a great question. It definitely was like, I was thinking kind of educational, but I love the idea of if people want to show up with their charts already printed, we can use them as because I think the best way to learn is through examples. And like, obviously it's so fun to hear, be like, what about me? Like, what does this mean about me? Like, and so I think that'd be really fun if people are comfortable bringing their info, then we could absolutely use them as examples through it and just discuss it all together. I think that'd be way fun. Definitely like open conversation kind of vibe was my hope, but
yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's my favorite, like, because I mean, the whole reason we have our in-person events is to like really foster the community and like create that. So I think that style of teaching for them is perfect because then it, leaves room for people to be as involved as they want to. But
yeah, so, I love that.
I love it too. I'm so excited that you're going to be helping us with that. And it's going to be so fun to see you in person. Yeah,
I'm really excited.
And that's June 19th. Can you tell us where people can find you?
Yeah, I am on Instagram. Oh, my phone's right here. I believe it's just Lind, Lind .Lafleur, Lafleur on Insta. I also have a TikTok under that name. I'm very bad at being on it. But yeah, if anyone's ever interested in, like I said, I do human design readings. Another thing I'm really passionate about is I don't know if you guys have heard of hypnotherapy, but I do inner child hypnotherapy. And that's, again, created that enemies to lovers relationship within myself where I'm just very happy with who I am now. So big
Sounds
fan.
exciting.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I love that so much. Cool. And I'll put links to where people can find you down in the show notes and in the description. So,
Great.
yay.
And also, if anyone references this podcast, I'd be happy to give them a discount. So they can just reach out to me and I'll give them a little deal.
Cool. Perfect. Wonderful. Well, tell Lindy you found her on the A.L.L podcast. Like your inner child work or human design, and maybe ways that people could kind of find their modality. I don't know. It sounds like you went through a really cool process of discovering yourself and what you could do to help people, because I really feel like we all have gifts. They're just different. And I don't know if you have any insight on how to find a good modality or how you found yours. And anyway.
Yeah, no, I love that question. Thank you. It really, at least my experience, everyone I've met, we all have this really dark part of us that's just unfortunately filled with a lot of self-doubt, self-loathing, and just this heaviness I feel like a lot of us are carrying, or at least used to carry, or, whatever it may be. And I can relate so deeply because I like, when I say like enemies to lovers, like just constant self-loathing, constant negative thoughts in my head, constant, nothing I did was enough. Nothing I did would ever be enough. I just hated myself, everything about it. And it felt like there's just no escaping it. And the best advice I can give in regards to that for anyone trying to find their way out of that pit and find what modality feels right to them is it really all just starts back to you and just giving yourself permission that the rules don't matter, that other people's expectations do not matter. And you just keep choosing back into yourself and keep choosing back into you and just keep trying and figuring out what feels right, knowing that you're not stuck to anything, that you're allowed to change, that you're allowed to grow your needs and wants. You might at one moment feel like this is the most true right thing I could ever do. And then the next week it might be like, oh, why did I even do that? Like, and that's okay. Like we are meant to change and evolve and grow. And just like it's a choice you have to consciously keep making, of choosing back to you. Especially when you grow up used to having to watch everyone else around you and be mindful of like their emotions and try to people please them, or, watch how you present yourself to like meet their expectations, whatever it may be. It's a conscious choice that you just have to keep practicing of like, hey, I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to choose back into me and I'm going to follow what feels right. I'm going to take the next little step, whatever that looks like. And so for some people that might be as big as, okay, I'm going to jump into yoga and figure that out, or, oh, I want to get into witchcraft and that's great. But for you, it might be as simple as simply just saying, I'm going to allow myself just a night where I cancel the plans I had. I'm going to take a bath and I'm just going to cry. And I'm just going to let that be enough. And I'm going to let that be okay. And I find as you keep following that kind of tug of just those little micro moments of choosing back into yourself, it naturally gradually evolves into these bigger moments. And you don't even have to go chasing for it. Opportunities are just given to you of like the Greece thing, right? Like my friend called me out of the blue, like, hey, we're going to go to Greece and it's going to change your life. And I'm like, okay, like, you know what I mean? Like all you have to do is just keep choosing right here, right now. You don't have to worry about the future. You don't have to worry about the past. Pretend you're just born right now, right today. Like, what do you need right this second? And just keep following those little moments and choosing back into yourself. And then I feel like you're naturally guided to what you're needed. And for me, like, I'm so curious if I'd been introduced to human design earlier, if it would have like potentially offended me, if it would have like, I don't know, just like gone over my head. Like, I think I was introduced to it like at the right time, because I just kept choosing into myself and my comfort level and what felt right and good to me, and following just me. Yeah. Instead of any linear path or anything that like, I feel like we're pressured to do. I don't know if that answered your question, but
Yes. Oh, no, that's perfect. I love it so much. That's such good advice. I feel like finding that authentic self is, I mean, one of the hardest things that we have to do. But once you've done it, like the way that it starts to pull you towards opportunities that just are feeding it is so amazing.
yeah,
So
it really makes you feel like, man, the universe is on my side, huh? Like, always has been.
Right.
It's really incredible. And I think too, in that vein, just again for anyone who might feel like they're going through it, it really, like, I know they've probably heard it so many times, it gets so much better, because before you know it, you go from what feels like every day's a bad day to, okay, now you had a good moment here or there, to, okay, now it feels pretty 50-50. And the next thing you know, you're looking back and you're like, man, I haven't been sad in a hot minute. Like, or not even, like, not that sad's bad, but like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I haven't not been okay in a hot minute. And like, before you know it, it becomes your norm to put yourself first. It becomes your norm to set these boundaries. It becomes your norm to like explore and try new things. And so you just keep taking it one step at a time, just keep choosing back into yourself. And then it seriously feels like you blink and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, like, we did it. We made it.
Yes. Yeah. It's
That's
so hard. I
beautiful.
feel like especially when things are hard, like that moment, you're so in it. Like you can't picture anything outside of it. But then like once you get past that moment, you're like, oh, that was this tiny little blip. Like
Yeah.
who knew?
Yeah, immediately puts it in perspective and you're like, oh, maybe it wasn't that big of a deal. My bad.
Right.
I'm trying to think if I have any more questions, and I'm like, I just feel like so like my cup feels full after talking with you.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so sweet.
And my mind feels like blown. Like I'm so
Aw.
excited to like dive into this for myself. I think like for me personally, one of the best parts about being alive right now is the access that we have with all of this type of stuff. Like you were just saying, like if it would have been introduced to you earlier, would you have been receptive or not? But like when we grow up, that information just wasn't there. So we didn't know we didn't know one thing from the other, and we just like trudged along with, and so I love that it, putting this information out there gives people the opportunity to say, yeah, I'm interested in that, or say, I'm not ready for that yet. But for me, I think about it in the context of like, because I have 2 kids, 2 teenagers, and I'm like, oh my God, like I should do this for them. Like to know what they are at such an early age, I feel like would probably give them such an advantage of,
Oh, yeah.
like, oh, you're not meant to fit into public school. This makes sense because you're this, or anyway, it's just blowing my mind. I have like a million thoughts running.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I feel like I'm not like, interacting very much, but like you're blowing my mind apart right now.
Oh, I love it. No, that's awesome. And this is going to excite. There's so many books on human design and parenting, like alone. Like it's really powerful tool to like hear about your kids and how they function, because it makes it so much easier when you're like, oh, this is just how they're meant to function. And like you said, like how incredible to give them that opportunity at such a young age to say, hey, you are intentional exactly as you are. Like there's nothing wrong with you. There's a lot wrong with the world, but there's nothing wrong with you. And you're good to like pave your own path and set your own boundaries and create your own, like just be you unapologetically. And like, I think with that idea too of just like, obviously it was really nerve wracking to kind of step into authenticity and step into this you. I was convinced the world was going to burn around me, right? That I was going to be so rejected that I'd lose all my friends and family. And the way that the world shifts with you, like, in so much, like, the more you're authentically yourself, it allows the people around you to be more authentically them. It's just this, like, beautiful ripple effect. Like, I truly think, like, that's how we're going to heal the world, is when we heal ourselves first. And then you just watch how much it, like, literally hits every corner of your life, and then that moves on to the next person and the next person. And so I love that you brought up your kids, because I think that's going to be absolutely incredible for them to just have such, like, confidence and celebration in who they are.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad to meet you and have you and hear all of this.
Yeah, thank you. This has been an absolute blast.
Yeah.
Love this kind of stuff.
June's going to be a fun one.
Yes. I know that there's like the environments, right, in human design.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what that like stuck out to me, because I learned like what my husband's chart was and what my chart was, and his is like, his environment is caves, and he's like such a homebody. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. And mine is mountains, which is like, you want to get out, but not just like out, like you want to get away from it. And I was like,
fun.
oh. Yeah. And so it's so funny, like how our, you know, just our, where we want to be and like our happy places are so different from one another's, that it like really gave me insight, because I was like, how can you just want to sit inside? Like, how can you want to do that? I just want to like go, like, let's run away. Let's pretend like civilization's gone, or let's just go be in the mountains. And he's like, no, I pay rent. I pay my mortgage for a reason.
For my
all of the things I like are here. And I'm like, that's fair.
I love that you brought that up, because it's so fun too. I found, like, it's so, and not saying necessarily that you were judging him by any means, but I know, like, for me, my ex-husband and I were like polar opposites, and I felt like it was really easy for me to be like, oh, he like doesn't want to go out, he doesn't want to do this, and to me it was a negative in my head, because that's just what it felt like. I feel like human design, where it allows you to kind of finally like embrace and accept yourself, where before you might have judged yourself for like wanting to run out into the woods somewhere, right? Or like, I was kind of like, I felt a little judged that I always wanted to, my environment's kitchens, which means I love the hustle and bustle. I love community. I love creating. I love just like the feeling when you're in a kitchen making food with your family or friends. And so, but I always kind of felt judged where that's not what he wanted to do. And so I felt judged when that's what I wanted to do. And so I'd project that judgment back onto him and being like, okay, well, I need to be right, which means you need to be wrong. Because if you're wrong, then, or if you're right, then I'm wrong. And it just created this like never ending cycle. And I found that like human design just lets you off the hook, man. Like, you're like, oh, it's all good. I'm good. And then in doing that, it lets you let everyone else off the hook too. You're like, oh, you're fine. Yeah, you stay in. I'm going to go to the mountains real quick. I'll be back. But like, I'm going to go have fun and frolic, and then we'll meet up later. Like, it just like lets go of this pressure, because like life is supposed to be fun. My whole belief, I personally believe we're eternal beings for sure, but we're eternal beings having this human experience. And so again, even if this is it and we're not eternal beings, like, we're still having this experience. Like, we're literally meant to just experience. That's it. Like, there's no right or wrong. We're just here to experience it all. And so with that, like, it's just not meant to be that serious. You know what I mean? It's meant to be fun. We're meant to enjoy. We're meant to have fun. We're meant to like enjoy the differences within each other. We're meant to have preferences and be like, I love that for you, but not for me. We're meant to be like, you know, I love you enough. I want you in my circle. I'm going to love you from a distance. Like, whatever it's supposed to be. Like, we're just meant to have our preferences and enjoy it. And yeah.
I feel like that's such a healthy outcome of learning to start embracing like who you are authentically, because then you do understand like some people are just gonna like, everybody's just them, and you can't necessarily change that. And it's all about like setting the boundaries that are right for you with how they choose to be. Like, you don't have to love everybody up close, but like you can still appreciate who they are, even if they're not somebody that you're gonna like put into your like immediate circle.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Oh, okay. Will you remind us again, like, is it best for people to just like DM you on Instagram or?
Yeah, so I am in the process of setting up a Calendarly,
Yeah.
some cool app that lets you schedule stuff with people, which I do have that link in my Instagram bio, but it's not finished yet. So
Okay.
feel free to just DM me. I'll be happy to set stuff up. I do offer hypnotherapy sessions. Those ones are a little cheaper just because they're only about like 45 minutes to an hour. And then I do human design readings, and those are a little more expensive just because they're still totally affordable, but like it's usually about like 2 hours because I want to get in it with you. I want to go through all the details. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Oh, I love it. And what was your Instagram handle one more time, just for?
Yeah. Lind, Lind .Lafleur, Lafleur.
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This was wonderful. I don't know. I don't want to cut you off. Do you feel good? Do you have any other big
Yeah.
eye-opening?
If it's not too weird, what time is it? How are we doing on time?
No, we're doing great on time. I'm
Okay.
like,
Awesome. Could we end with like maybe just a little quick inner child meditation?
oh my gosh.
And tap into that. That's comfortable
Yes.
for everyone.
Absolutely. I'm going to mute myself because I've got background noise.
Okay, water real quick. Okay. So let's go ahead and just anyone who is able to go ahead and close your eyes. And if you're in a place where you can't close your eyes, just kind of relax your gaze, allow your face to relax. And let's just take a few deep breaths in through our nose, out through our mouth. And I just want you to imagine as you're breathing in and out, I want you to imagine your inner child. They can appear before you in any age, wearing whatever they want to be wearing. And I just want you to see them. Some of them might be so excited and happy. Some of them might be a little scared or quiet, and that's okay. I want you to invite them to come sit on your lap. And if it feels comfortable, go ahead and wrap your arms around them, just giving them a big embrace. I want you to go ahead and take this time to just tell them anything you'd love to tell them. Maybe anything you wish you would have heard when you were a child. Just anything you feel they need to hear right now. And when you're ready, no rush. I want you again to just embrace this little version of you, this incredible child, telling them how much you love them. Now I want you to imagine them looking up at you and saying how incredibly proud they are of you, for the person you are today. How incredibly grateful they are for everything you've been through to be exactly where you are right now. The fact that you are the type of person your younger self would have felt safe with, would have felt loved by. Just allow that sense of pride and love settle into you. I want you to imagine grabbing their cute little hands within yours. And together, you're going to say that we are always enough and never too much. We are intentional exactly as we are. Love surrounds us and is within us. We are doing just fine. All is well. And then when you're ready, as you're just breathing in, I want you to imagine that beautiful little you as you're hugging and embracing them. I want you to imagine them merging back into your body like a water returning back to the ocean. Because they are you and you are them. We are always enough and never too much. We are always loved and we are intentional. Now we get to go on through the rest of our day, the rest of our week, tapped into our cute little inner child, maybe looking for opportunities to have more fun, to give ourselves more joy, more peace, because we are deserving. Again, no rush. When you're ready, just go ahead and take a few more deep breaths and feel free to open your eyes.
Thank you.
That was great. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that was perfect. Perfect way to end it. Thank you so much, Lindy.
Yeah, thank you, guys. It was such a pleasure meeting y'all.
Yeah, I'm excited to meet you in person.
Thanks for joining the All Podcast.
To find out more, you can find us online at academyoflogicandlight.org or on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at Academy of Logic and Light.
If you live in the Salt Lake Valley, we'd love to see you at one of our upcoming events.
And don't forget to support our growth by joining our Patreon.
Until next time, lead with logic and light.